Hey friends, it's Dewey here, and I am excited to come to you today with another episode of Taking a Bite Out of History. Now, I know I've been gone for a long time, but I am coming back with some brand new information because you know on this channel, the nerds and the bakers unite together and we always come up with a brilliant product. Today, we're going to talk about two of the most quintessential holiday ingredients, that is of ginger and molasses. And to tell you the truth, whether you love them or hate them, you have to put some respect on the name of ginger and molasses. Let's cue the intro. Most people think that ginger is a root. It's kind of cute in name, but really ginger is a rhizome. It's grown underground, similar to a potato, and it's grown in balmy tropical weather and mostly produced in Southeast Asia, India, or China. It's also produced in Fiji and Peru. Now, ginger is grown in places that have rich volcanic soil. They get lots of rain, but that soil also gets drained quite a bit. So from that description, ginger was seen to be used for medicinal and spiritual purposes all the way back to about 5,000 years ago in places like China and India. And really, it wasn't until the 14th and the 16th century that we see ginger being used quite a bit. I'm working on a gingerbread cake, some toasted ginger snaps. We have a salted caramel, and then a Swiss meringue buttercream. Ginger used to be quite costly. Around the 14th century, 1 pound of ginger could cost you as much as 1 sheep. Could you imagine? But by the 16th century, there was so much ginger around, it became like a common table fixture, almost similar to salt and pepper. Now, I told you that you would have to put some respect on ginger's name because ginger is used for so many things. From sweet dishes to savory dishes like Thai, ginger is used. It's often the star player in any of those dishes. In the 19th century, people started adding ginger to beer, and that is how we get ginger ale. Don't you love facts? Now let's talk about molasses, because molasses bring all the heat and they bring all the drama. So molasses is really just a dark liquid that's left over after refined sugar is crystallized. And it could be used in place of honey or maple syrup. You see molasses in barbecue. You see molasses in marinade. So it's all over the place. And at one point in history, molasses were used as the primary sweetener in a lot of dishes because people couldn't get their hands on sugar. Okay? But now that's not the drama that I'm talking about. Molasses has a very deep history. So during the slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade specifically, you have where New England rum owners or rum creators, whatever we want to call them, they are shipping their rum to Africa or selling their rum to Africa in exchange for slaves. The slaves are picked up in Africa and then they are taken to the West Indies where they are sold to sugarcane plantations. And on those sugarcane plantations, the slaves are harvesting the sugar. And then that sugar is sold back to New England so that they can create more rum. So rum to slaves, slaves to plantations, slaves harvesting the sugar so that more rum can be created. Now, I know I mentioned rum, but it takes molasses in order to make rum. Yeah, so that's scandal number 1. Scandal number 2 is in 1919 in a city in North Boston. There was a molasses plant and they had this entire water tank, if you want to think about it, one of those huge things that sit outside the city, but it was filled with molasses at this molasses plant. Well, it exploded one day because that's just what those things do, I suppose. It exploded and flooded down the street. And 25 or 26 people passed away, 150 more people were injured, and what a way to die. But Jave, how do we get to using sugar now and not molasses? I'm glad you asked. So after World War One, the price of granulated sugar dramatically dropped. I don't know why. I didn't do the research on that. But molasses, though it was the primary sweetener before, it was eventually replaced by sugar due to the fact of the cost. And if you think about it now, molasses is still more expensive than sugar. You can get one of these bottles for about $3.29 to $3.99. That's the price that I've seen in the store. And it'll get you 12 fluid ounces. But I can get an entire pound of sugar for $2 if necessary, depending on which store I go to, and pay less money and it have a way better effect in bakes than what molasses will. Now, we can talk about ginger and molasses on their own, but I do think it's important to talk about them together. Up until the 15th century, gingerbread used to mean preserved ginger. It wasn't until after the 15th century that gingerbread became synonymous with any sort of sweet treat that had ginger plus honey, ginger plus treacle, ginger plus molasses. It could have been any combination, but you had to have ginger in one of those sticky substances, and that was gingerbread. Now, by the time the late Middle Ages came, most Europeans had their own version of gingerbread as a treat, right? And that gingerbread was sold at medieval fairs. Now, whenever people exchanged gingerbread, like a gingerbread cookie, it was seen as a token of love, which I think is absolutely sweet. I'd like to point out that it was Queen Elizabeth I who had an idea to decorate the gingerbread cookies, like the ones we see for gingerbread houses, into shapes of animals or shapes of flowers. She even had the idea to decorate cookies to look like dignitaries that were coming to visit her at the castle. We cannot talk about gingerbread without mentioning gingerbread houses. You know, the ones that look like this, where you have the, well, it doesn't quite look like this, but these are some of the pieces. I bought this from the store with every intention to put this together. And then I sat down and realized I would have to make the icing, and I thought, no, not a good idea. However, gingerbread houses did become incredibly popular in the United States, just not really everywhere else in the world. Somehow it took off here, and there are still competitions to this day for gingerbread houses. People think that this tradition actually started in Germany after Hansel and Gretel was written. And you know, you have the witch who lives in that little cookie house. Well, they think it came from gingerbread, and people started creating them. My friends, will be a naked cake. Naked cakes are cakes that have minimal design on them, and you can see some of the cake layers protruding. During my research, I found out that there are over 20 different brands of gingerbread cookies available to consumers. And I remember the brand that my mother always had stocked in the house, and that brand wasn't even in the top 10. So I was real curious to taste what people said the top few were. Now, I think what makes a really good gingerbread cookie is its level of spice, how peppery this cookie is, how sweet it is, and then how crunchy it is. No one is looking for a soft gingerbread cookie. Get that mess out of here. We want something that you can snap apart, similar to an English biscuit. We want something that I can taste the ginger in, I can taste the other spices, but it'll give me some sweetness because it's still a cookie. Now, of the top 20, I narrowed it down to just the top 3. Let's actually just go ahead and tell you the order. I was going to wait, but all of this suspense is killing me. So here are the top 3 brands. We have Anna's Swedish Thins. Ooh, you can't really see that. Let me do that. Can y'all see that now? It'll be below in the description box. This is Anna's. And then we have Nayakers Gingersnaps Original. I don't know if you can really see that. It's quite bright in here. We also have Dewey's Ginger Spice. So we're gonna try all 3 of these brands on camera. And by we, I mean I'm going to try all 3 of these and let you know how they taste. This is Anna's, this is number 1, or should I work in the other order? Let me work in the opposite order. That way I know why that's number 1. I can smell the ginger right away. I feel like I can also smell the molasses coming through. It's crunchy. I get the crunch. I get the sweetness. I get the spice content at the very end of the bite. Very end of the bite, I get the spice. Not a bad cookie. Again, I use these in the cake. And I can definitely taste the ginger coming through now. This is number 2, Nayakers. As far as the snap or the crunchiness goes, Dewey's definitely has more of a biscuit quality. This is a little bit softer. This is less spicy, more on the sweet side. Simple ingredients though. I can taste the cloves coming out. Interestingly enough, there are more cloves in here than ginger. Come on, Anna. Let's see what you're working with. Here's Anna's. I think this is the thickest one out of all of them. Cute shape. Let's see the snap. Similar to Nayakers. This one is sweeter, I think, than all 3 of them. Far less spice. Sweet, middle sweet, still some spice at the end. I can definitely taste those cloves coming through. This one would be the spiciest, definitely the crunchiest. I think followed by this one, then that one. Which one would I come back to again? I don't know which one I would come to again, to be quite honest with you. They're not bad cookies. I think it's all about a personal preference. Simplicity is key for this cake. So we're gonna leave it naked. I'm gonna take off some of this extra icing on the top, and we're gonna do a caramel drizzle and then just a little bit more decoration. And then we're gonna slice right into this thing and see what it looks like. Let's not limit ourselves on the flavor options for ginger and molasses. Now, of course, we all know about gingerbread and we know about gingerbread cookies, but you could do a ginger and orange together. You can do ginger and pear together. You could also do ginger and coffee.
Creole, shrimp gumbo, pan fried, deep fried.
The options are basically endless. So get out there and try it. Friends, thank you for walking with me on this historical and tasty journey. If you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and share with people that you love around you. I love you, and I know that you love me. Can't wait to see you again. Bye.